This is the Creative Funding Show, a podcast for authors, YouTubers, and podcasters who want to fund the work they love.
Welcome to the Creative Funding Show. I'm Thomas Umstadt Jr. And today we're going to be talking about info products and how you can fund your YouTube channel or podcast with informational products. But first, I just want to say thank you for your kind reviews. I was feeling really low yesterday, and for some reason I stumbled across the reviews on Apple Podcasts for the Creative Funding Show, which I haven't checked in months, and there were a lot of really kind reviews, and I'm really thankful for those of you who left a review for the show. It really means a lot. It also helps people discover the show, and I don't get a lot of mail. I don't get a lot of people emailing in questions or tweeting in questions, so it's good to know that you're out there listening. I see your downloads in the statistics, and I'm thankful for your reviews and for those of you who have reached out. So I do enjoy doing this show. And I do want to hear from you whether you prefer deep dives or interviews, because I can do more of one or more of the other. Today, though, I'd like to talk about info products. And you may be wondering, what is an info product? So the basic, most simple info product is an ebook or a PDF of some kind that solves a specific problem that your audience has. Info products in general are better fit for educational creators than they are for entertainment creators, but they can be very powerful. So the ebook is the basic version, and obviously an audio is better than an ebook, or an audio combined with an ebook, or audio, video, and an ebook would be the ultimate informational product. So often these are courses, sometimes they're packaged in various ways, but they can be very powerful, and one of the reasons why they are so powerful is that they're very high margin. So if you're selling a t-shirt for $10 and it costs you $5 to make that t-shirt, you're only making 50% of the cost of the t-shirt. Whereas an informational product, the cost isn't all the labor that you put in creating the product. When you sell it, often you're getting 90% plus margins. So it can be a really great way to fund your creativity because you get to keep so much of the money. You don't have to share it with very many people. Now, you still have to share credit card fees and other fees related to your host or your platform that you're using, but those are typically very low. So let's talk a little bit about how to create an informational product. The key is to start with your audience, and you want to ask the question, what questions is my audience asking? So if I were to create an info product for the Creative Funding Show, it would be A to Z, how to launch a Patreon campaign. It would be something like that, something that's very specific to the kinds of questions people who are listening to the show have. I'm launching an info product for my other podcast, Novel Marketing. And I'm going to share at the end of this episode, I'm going to share the episode where we announce that one. So you can kind of hear how we're doing what we're doing. But we have a lot of listeners on that other show who are asking about how to launch their book. So they spent a lot of time writing their book, and now it's time to launch it. What do they do? And that's more than what we can cover in a single episode, like to teach all the things that go into a successful book launch. And so what we've done is we've repackaged all of the training that we have, that we've either done on the podcast or in live events, and focused it just on the book launch. So anything that's not related to a book launch is not in the course. And it's all brand new audio. So while some of it we may have taught in previous episodes of the Novel Marketing Podcast, there's over 50 hours of novel marketing. So if you were listening to novel marketing as your full-time job, you'd go through an entire week of listening to the podcast and you still wouldn't have heard all of the episodes. So having something distilled and focused is very powerful. And it's we're hoping anyway, very popular with our listeners. And this is all brand new content in the sense that it's all new recording. So we're not like copying and pasting from old podcasts, but we are going to share some of the same tips we've shared before. So our process for creating the course was we started by writing a draft of the landing page. And we focused on the benefits of each individual session because we wanted to make sure before we recorded the session or even outline the session that the session was going to do something that was beneficial for our listeners. So how to create an effective brand, how to create a launch team. These are very specific benefits, and we would often also explain why a launch team is helpful and why having a good brand is helpful, that sort of thing. So we created the like an initial draft of the outline. It wasn't a final version. It wasn't very good from a marketing perspective, but it was good enough for us to be able to then create the outline, which was step 2. And then in step 3, we recorded the session. So I did it with James Rubart, my co-host, and Mary DeMuth, actually, who was a friend of both of ours, who was on the last episode for her podcast. She's launched over 35 books. She really knows what she's doing. We team up with her as well. In each session, 2 of us are teaching together. So you're not never getting just one person's perspective. And then we are also developing homework for each session. So each day is one session. It's a 3-week course. Everyone's going to be going through it at the same time. And each day there's going to be a handout that you're going to fill out. And at the end of the 3 weeks, each one of our students are going to have a custom blueprint for launching their book, which is the premise of the course. The course is a book launch blueprint, and they will have that blueprint custom for their book developed by the end. So we developed the handouts, and then step 5, we developed the actual landing page. We first built it out in Lead Pages. I think it's leadpages.net, but we ended up going with Teachable.com as our final solution. And I've used Teachable before with other previous courses, and they're very powerful as a place of kind of managing the lessons and giving people downloads and letting them watch videos and PDFs. It handles it all in one spot. And it's got a pretty good landing page tool. It's not as good as Lead Pages, but it's good enough, and it doesn't cost any extra for the landing page. So they kind of throw in the landing page features for free, so to speak. And so once we had that landing page ready, we sent a link to it to our mastermind group, and they picked it apart, and we then rewrote it. We had to redo the whole thing based off of their feedback. And I think this is an important principle. So Jim Rubart, my co-host, is a professional copywriter. Mary's done this 35 times. I've done this a lot. But that doesn't mean we don't still need feedback. There's a saying that Jim says a lot. He says, it's hard to read the label when you're standing inside of the bottle. And having that outside perspective is very important. So once we reworked the landing page, it's time to launch it. So we released the landing page live. We send out a link to all of our patrons. Our patrons are getting an exclusive discount on this course. So Novel Marketing patrons save $50 on the course, which is a great way to encourage people to be patrons. We want our patrons to always feel like they are getting red carpet service, and that they're getting their patronage fee given back to them in discounts. So our approach, at least with Novel Marketing, is it's kind of like being a member to Costco. You get your membership fee back in discounts, and it also encourages somebody who's already paying to be a patron, like, well, gosh, I'm already getting $50 off this course. We're hoping it will encourage them to sign up and take the course. So let's talk about promotion. So like I said, we email out to all of the patrons about the course, and then we're also emailing the Novel Marketing email list. Mary's going to email her list. I'm going to email the author media list. Jim has a list of authors he's going to email. Email is a big piece of this. And one of the things that we're doing is we're creating an editorial calendar to manage the emails that are going out. That when we do a podcast episode promoting it, that's on the calendar. A Facebook Live is on the calendar. So we have a calendar to know each day what's happening during this 2-week launch window. And editorial calendars and how to create that as a book launch tool is actually one of the things we teach. So we're practicing some of our preaching with launching this course. And one more thing I should say is that it's not just training. There's also a private Facebook group that all of the students are going to have access to. And this is actually a really powerful principle, and that is that students want to be with other students who are going through the material together. And especially for something like this, they're not just kind of asking questions together, but they're also on a team together. Everyone's launching their books. And our hope is that the students will help each other with their book launches, maybe join each other's launch teams if it's a book that they potentially are interested in. And so that's part of the benefit, is that you're going through with a cohort. And what we're doing is we're limiting signups for just 2 weeks. So there's a 2-week window to sign up, and then after that, the course is launching. If it's successful, we may do this again, and like maybe early next year or some other time we'll do it again, but we may not. And if it's super successful, we're probably going to charge more. So we were debating, and let me talk a little bit about pricing strategy here. we really debated quite a bit where to price this. So we were varying between the $500 level, or like a $4.99 for these 3 weeks of training, and $2.99 on the low end. Those were the price points that Jim, Mary, and I debated. And we debated it probably on 3 or 4 separate occasions, and I think each one of us at one point advocated for each one of those price points. And what we decided to do was go with the lowest of those 3 price points, and we're splitting it, 1/3 for each of us. It would be $100 each for each course we sell. So that's one of the things you want to think about. Am I going to team up with somebody? It expands the audience. The email list is bigger, but it also reduces your cut. But we decided to go with the lower end of the spectrum, partly because we want this first one to be a success. And we'll have testimonials for the course in specific. So on the landing page, we have testimonials for us as teachers in general, but since this is a brand new course, there's no testimonials for this course specifically. So once we have those testimonials are going to add a premium to the cost. The other advantage is that letting people know it's going to be more expensive next time, we're hoping incentivizes them to sign up now rather than later. So yeah, you could wait if we launch it again in January, but it's going to be $500 in January, whereas it's only $299 now. That's kind of our thinking, to kind of let you in on our world. And part of the reason we want to price it this high is that we really want every student to go through every session every day so they can discuss it in the group. We're not wanting people who may or may not do this at some point in the future. This is really for folks who are serious about it. And if you're launching your book, a $2.99 investment is really not that expensive compared to the other things that you're buying. You're going to spend almost that much just on your ISBN numbers for your book. So we're hoping that this is priced well. It's in the range of other products for authors that are similar to this. In fact, it's a little bit on the low end, which is one of the interesting things about info products. And one of the reasons why I like them as a funding tool is that you can price them higher than, say, writing a book. So if we put this material into a book, there's an expectation that books cost $20. You can't really charge $300 for a book. And of course, it's very different. The experience is very different. This is more like going to a conference. It's $3,000 than it is like reading a book. But that's kind of where an informational product fits. And hopefully this kind of gives you a good overview of kind of the process of going through and creating an info product. We did an episode of Novel Marketing where we announced the course, and I'm actually going to play that for you now. So if this isn't interesting to you, you're welcome to skip. I'm not going to put anything Creative Funding Show at the end of the episode that you have to stick around for. But it may be helpful if you're thinking about doing this to kind of hear how we lay it out, how we talk about it. You're welcome to steal any good ideas, and if we're making any mistakes, don't repeat those mistakes. And let me know what you think of this deep dive into creating informational products. If you are an educational podcaster, an educational YouTube channel, creating some kind of informational product can be very helpful for your listeners, and also a very good way to fund your creativity. And so without any further ado, let me play for you episode 150 of the Novel Marketing Podcast.
This is Novel Marketing, the show for novelists who aren't necessarily fond of marketing, but still want to become best-selling authors.
Episode 150.
I'm James L. Rubart, but you can call me Jim.
I'm Thomas Umstattd Jr.
I'm Mary Demuth.
And in this episode, we're going to talk to you guys about how to launch your book in a way that will rocket it to success. So, Thomas, was that metaphor too way over the top, or was that okay?
That was good. But first, real quick, this is our 150th episode, which is a big accomplishment. We started Novel Marketing back in October of 2013.
Wow.
Which seems like a lifetime ago. And indie publishing world, that's like 2 whole generations of indie authors.
That's a century, yeah.
Yeah. So just some quick show stats for those of you who've been with us for a long time. Jim and I have written 270 pages of show notes. Now, this isn't what we're saying. These are just like little sentences and bullet points on what we're going to say. So just the show notes is almost an entire book. It's over a whole book. We published 52 hours and 50 minutes of audio, and that's not counting the 5-year plan. It's not counting any of the Patreon exclusive episodes. So if you add that together, that's 2.2 days of audio. So if you started listening to episodes...
And Thomas, we should give a prize to somebody that just listens to all 2.2 days straight through without sleeping, with
no break,
without eating, no break. Yeah.
I do know people who will binge the show in a week or two, and they'll just start at the beginning and they'll go through to the end, especially people with really long commutes. So I do know that is done. Yeah. So please do take naps. Don't binge it straight. As of this recording, the show has 168,876 downloads, and only 79 reviews on iTunes. So I'm not sure what's going on there. It's really hard. Well, part of it is people will download multiple episodes, but another thing is that people are very hesitant to write iTunes reviews because a lot of people don't know how to do it, don't know how to get into Apple Podcasts to write a review. So if you're one of the 79 people who went to Apple Podcasts and left us a review, I really, really appreciate you. Real quick, a few more stats. The median episode length is 20 minutes and 35 seconds. And if you add the number of downloads and you multiply it by the show length, that's 3 million minutes of listening, 56,000 hours, 2,345 days, or 6.4 years of listening. So we have collectively sucked 6.4 years of your life away.
People's
Tell
lives.
us, how do you feel? And it's for posterity, so do be honest and leave your review on iTunes or on Apple Podcasts.
Okay, I love the Princess Bride reference slid in there, Thomas. Very nice, very subtle.
Yes. So anyway, after 150 episodes, one of the big questions we have received over the years is specifically about launching the book. We talk a lot about marketing the book, but specifically launching the book, the month before and the month after the book comes out. And like the big question of like, how do I build a career that we built the 5-year course for? This is a question that's too big for an episode. It's really too big for a series of episodes. We are going to give you an overview, but the cool thing about this is that we are creating a course specifically to help you do this, to launch your book and to craft a custom blueprint for your book. And joining us to do that is Mary DeMuth. Jim, who is Mary DeMuth?
Well, it is, it's really cool to have Mary here for the 150th episode because she was pretty significant in the start of both of our careers. And so to have you here, Mary, it's really cool. Thank you for being here.
So great to be here. Love you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Mary, have you written like 330 books, something like that?
Yeah, only 37, I think the number is now.
So 37 books. And Mary, Mary is the rule breaker because you've heard us talk about it's extremely difficult to do both fiction and nonfiction. And Mary is one of the people that has broken that rule. She's been successful in fiction, Christie Award nominees. She's been successful in nonfiction. She's done it both. But I think the thing I love most about Mary is she is all about the heart of her readers and going after them. She's a great teacher. She's a great speaker. But again, I'll just go back to Mary is somebody that is great about the heart.
Well, that's very sweet. Thank you so much. That is very true. At least that's my desire.
And it's very fun to talk about launching a book with somebody who's launched over 30 books. She's done it before and then did it again. She's launched indie books. She's launched traditional books. She's launched fiction and nonfiction. And we want to just really quickly give you an overview of what preparing for the book launch process looks like and doing the book launch. So this is, in a sense, a promotion for the course, but we're also going to be giving away a lot of nuggets in this. So it's not everyone's going to be able to do the course. So we realize that. In fact, we're limiting signups. Is going to end at the end of August. So you have 1 month to sign up for the course. And if you don't sign up in that time, because we're all going through it together. Everyone's going through day 1 together and day 2 together. We're going to have a Facebook group for everyone to go through it. We'll be asking questions. Jim, Mary, and I are going to be very involved. And the weeks, it's a 3-week course. Week 1 is get ready. Week 2 is get set. And week 3 is go. So Jim, tell us about week 1.
So week 1 is all about getting ready. And there's 5 days. So we're going to have 5 days of getting ready. Day 1 of the course is going to be all about what marketing is and how do you sell yourself, because ultimately you are the brand. Your book is not the brand. You are the brand. And so how do you promote yourself? How do you figure out who you are? How to find your bigger why you're even doing this? And once you have that as your foundation, you're really setting a foundation, then you can move on to day 2, which is developing that author brand very specifically, figuring out what it is, and then presenting it in a really powerful way to your readers. So you're going to look in the mirror and see who you are. You're going to look at your readers and see who they are. You're going to look through your readers. We're going to teach you how to do that. And then we're going to look in your reader's mirror. If all that sounds confusing, it's really not. It's a way of looking at your brand and looking at yourself from all angles so that when you present it, it's a brand that resonates deeply with your readers and potential readers.
And then finally, we're going to talk about how to build a rabid tribe of fans, which Mary has done. Mary has perhaps one of the most rabid tribes of anyone I know. Mary, tell us a little bit about that and about launching a launch team or starting a launch team.
Launching a launch team. So I love to create community around my books and what I do. And so actually have done a pretty good job of that. And usually I don't pat myself on the back for things, but that's one thing I think I do well. I know how to create the kind of tribe that is wildly enthusiastic about your work and who will, there's that verse in Proverbs that says, let another promote you and not the word of your own mouth. And that's kind of the basis of this whole idea of tribe building. It's so that other people can take a message out there for me so that I'm not the only one constantly shouting about it.
That's really good. And we'll talk about the kind of blocking and tackling of starting a launch team. But I want to move on to week 2, which is get set. So we laid the foundation in week 1. Week 2 is get set. And the first thing we're going to talk about here is email. Email is a key part of launching your book. We're going to talk about how to build your list. And we're also going to talk about email strategies around your launch. And the pro tip here is that you can get away with a higher than normal sending frequency during your launch. So if you normally send an email once a month, you don't just have one email. It's like, oh, my book's coming out this month. I can only send out one email. False. You can send out multiple emails. We'll walk you through exactly when to send the emails and what to put in those emails as you launch your book and get people excited for it.
And that's important, Thomas, because we actually are going to do this in the first 5 days in the get ready portion of things, but we're going to teach you how to write copy that's effective. You can send out the emails at the right time with the right frequency, but if the copy is not strong, it's not going to do you much good. So we're going to teach you how to do that as well.
That's good. And then another thing we're going to talk about in the Get Set week is about developing a media calendar. Mary, you do a lot of guest podcast interviews like this one right here, and you're on the radio a lot. In fact, as soon as we get off this recording, you've got a call with a major publication, which you can't talk about. But tell us a little bit about editorial calendar and a media calendar. What is that, and what are people going to be learning here?
Well, I think just to back up a little bit, I think what people don't realize is that they spend so much time writing a book and they think, wow, I finished that. That took so much time. But that launching a book takes just about the same amount of time, oddly.
Yeah, that's true.
And so on that 1 month launch or the next maybe a month and a half or 2 months, you have to have a calendar because otherwise you will go a little bit crazy. You need to know when things are going live, when you're going to be on podcasts so that you can do your social media shares. And so having that media calendar is super helpful to you so that you don't go crazy. But also just a little tip there. It's normal to go crazy. So if you're overwhelmed by it, you're like about 99% of all authors. It's a lot of work. And, but that's why we're trying to help you. We want to give you the blueprint prior to the launch so that you're not so overwhelmed when you get into the middle of it, because the middle of it can be a little hairy.
And another advantage of the PR calendar is it helps you space out your activities so it doesn't all happen on one day. And there's this mistaking thought that the launch is a day. It's like everything has to happen in one insanely busy day. And the reality is that that's not going to work. People need to be reminded multiple times, and you will die if you try to do all of the work in one day. Or you may go into a sleep coma. So the calendar helps you space it out and realize, I don't have anything for day 14 of my launch. I need to find something. So it also helps you fill in the gaps, but also allows you to schedule for rest. So don't feel like you have to do something every single day during, the month before and the month after your book comes out. So the next thing that we're going to talk about in the Get Set week is the best ways to use Amazon. And so if you're indie published, Amazon, your page for your book on Amazon is the most important page about your book on the internet because that's how most people are going to encounter your book. If you go wide, people may be buying your book on other websites, but most of them are going to buy it on Amazon. And that page has to be amazing. And in this session, we're going to talk to you about the cover and the back cover copy and having clean Autobots and how to have lots of reviews, which pro tip, this is where your launch team comes in. So you're launching with a good number of reviews, but having a good page on Amazon is critical. And then we're also going to talk about website. So we're going to have a day where I'm going to share basically everything I know about websites is going to be synthesized into one day and how to prepare your website for launching your book. And then Mary and Jim are going to talk about how to get your content how to become a guest on blogs and podcasts and websites. Mary, why is that important?
Well, first of all, most people ask poorly. And as a podcast host, I've experienced this many times where people kind of pitch to me and say, hey, I want to be on your podcast, but they have no idea what the podcast is about, or they don't fit with the mission or vision. And I also get a lot of requests to guest blog. I just saw one today for a handyman, and I'm like, wow, that really does not have anything to do with Restory your life. So I'm going to say no. Actually, I just deleted it. So it's important that if you're going to pitch to an entity, whether it be a blog or a podcast or radio, you need to know your audience. And we can give you some strategies on making it beneficial for both, because a lot of times the pitches that I receive from people will only benefit them. And then I feel a little bit used. And I don't want you to be one of those people that's a me monster that's constantly wanting to use other people for your book. It's about what can you offer them. And so we'll give you some strategies for that.
And the pro tip here is people like Mary and even ourselves, we are looking for great content. We are looking for great guests. Absolutely. Because you got to keep this machine going. It's a hungry beast. But like Mary just said, it has to benefit both parties, not just you. And we'll teach you how to do that.
Well, let's move on to we're running out of time, so let's move on to week 3. There's so much here. We're not even summarizing everything. But in week 3, this is go. So get ready, get set, go. This is go time. We're going to talk about the actual things you're going to do about your launch. And on Monday of that week, we're going to talk about your 3 best friends when it comes to launching your book, which is urgency, scarcity, and popularity. These are psychological triggers in the minds of your readers that, if you play to them well, will motivate them to buy your book. If you fail to play to these psychological triggers, they will not be motivated to buy your book, and you will have a failed launch. Like, this is psychologically the essence of a good launch is these 3 things. And, how to create urgency. There's some techniques for doing that. How to create scarcity. There's some techniques for doing that. And then how to create a sense of popularity, or what social scientists would call social proof. This feeling that all of my friends are doing it, I want to do it too.
I've got to do it too.
I've got to do it too.
Johnny's jumping off the cliff. I got it, Mom.
One of the places that you're going to do that is on Goodreads, and we're dedicating a whole day to Goodreads. Goodreads is super popular with super readers, the kind of readers who are going to take a risk on a new book or take a risk on a new author. And so if you're launching a book, especially if you're early in your career, Goodreads is really important. And if you're later on in your career, Goodreads is still important because your readers that have already followed you are on Goodreads. You want to make sure that they know about your book during the launch week, because a good successful launch will help you rank on the bestseller list, which will help new people discover your book. And then we're going to talk about launch day. Jim, Mary, is that a big deal, the day of your launch?
It is. I have one coming up, actually. I'm launching the 7 Deadly Friendships on October 1st. And so I've been working on that. And it's the big day. It's the day that you want to see Amazon sales happen. It's a time to celebrate. You might want to host a launch party. We'll talk a little bit about that, maybe one online. And it's a time to celebrate. It's also the beginning of a very long, tiring month, but it's awesome.
It's the beginning of the marathon when everyone is clapping and cheering. And
yes.
Nothing hurts.
You have no injuries.
No injuries. Your shoes are in perfect condition. It's a great day, and we'll talk all about that. And then finally, we're going to talk about nailing media interviews. If we are doing a good job soliciting blogs, if you've got your editorial calendar working, knowing how to do a good media interview is really important. And Jim is going to talk about, I think this is Jim and Mary's, or y'all are doing this one. But it's fun, but it requires a lot of practice. So it's important to start practicing before your book launches. And we'll talk about how to do that, how to set up practices. And what are some other tips, just real quick, for people who aren't going to be able to go through the course? How do you nail a media interview in 1 or 2 sentences? What's the highlights?
Well, real quick, Thomas, you already said it. Practice, practice, practice. By that, I mean set up a video camera. Tape yourself doing an interview. Find a critique partner that you can actually critique each other on the interview. This was good. This was bad. You do not want to go into that cold. And the other thing is, here's a pro tip. Realize you are not the star of the show. The person interviewing you is the star of the show. The second star of the show is the person listening, not you.
That's so true. It's so important that it's about serving others. And really, if you believe in your book is about serving others. Even if it's a novel, it's about serving others. You're giving them a story, and that's important. So yes, it's not about you, it's about them. But if you're all keyed up and freaked out and scared and shaking, that's not going to go well for you. Yes. So practice, practice, practice. I recently was on CNN, and that was super scary. But I was in a room by myself with a camera pointed at me with the Dallas skyline behind me, and I got the questions in my ear, and I'm so grateful that I thought that through and I practiced prior.
And this is somebody, Mary, who has done hundreds of interviews, and yet she is still practicing for the CNN. So it's like any skill. You do not stop practicing your writing while you don't stop practicing radio and TV interviews either.
All right. So if you want to go through this course with us, if you want to be a part of the small group that will walk through this course day by day, and we'll be giving you feedback and you'll be asking questions. If having a blueprint seems interesting to you, we would love for you to go through this course. We'll have a link to go through it in the show notes. Now, we want to keep this focused for people who are serious. So in publishing world, there's people who just want to learn and people who just want to do. And so to keep it focused so that this is a really valuable group, we're pricing this. We thought about pricing it at $500, but we didn't. We fought and finally got it down to $299 to go through this 3-week course. And if you're not satisfied with the blueprint that you have at the end of the week, we will refund your money, or at the end of the 3 weeks, we will refund your money. Now, you may be asking, but I'm a patron. Do I get a discount if I'm a novel marketing patron? And the answer is absolutely you get a discount. Who do you think we are?
You do.
So, it's only $249 for novel marketing patrons. So if you're already a patron of the show, as a way of saying thank you for your $2 a month or your $5 a month, you get to save $50 on the cost of the course. But it is limited enrollment. So if you have not signed up by the end of August, that's it. We're closing enrollment. And that's it. You'll have missed your chance. So if you want to develop a blueprint, even if your book's not coming out right away, don't feel like you have to launch your book at the end of the 3 weeks. You won't be ready to, frankly. You're going to have a blueprint that you can then build your launch with. So if you've got a book coming out later this year or next year, I think this course will be very, very helpful for you.
And we've got some freebies in there as well, that not only do you get this course, but there's several things. One of them is my Launch Your Book checklist, which kind of takes you through so easily how to launch your book. So you have some practical things that we're giving to you as well.
Plus, we did some fun recordings. Each of us found one person we thought, hey, this would be really helpful. For example, I interviewed Alan Arnold, who was the senior vice president at Thomas Nelson, and oversaw the launch of more than 500 books. So I thought, okay, I'm going to talk to Alan about what it takes to do a great book launch. So you get that interview as a bonus, and you get interviews from Thomas and Mary as bonuses as well.
That's right. I forgot about the freebies. I'm throwing in a free version of My Book Table Pro, My Book Progress Pro, and I think several of the other plugins. Gosh, I don't even remember, and I'm live on the air.
The speaking one is in there too.
Okay, my speaking events. So this is nearly $100 worth of my plugin. So if you've heard us mention a plugin into My Book Table and you've been thinking about buying it, well, you'll get it for free by joining this course. So anything that we recommend that we've made or that I've made, I'll be giving that away for free in the course. So if I'm recommending you use My Book Table to help you create a book page to help you launch the book, which I will be doing in the website's talk, I will be giving you my book table Pro, which comes with a special landing page mode specifically for book launches, is included in the price of the course.
But wait, there's more.
The knives, Mary, talk about the knives.
Like Jim said, I'll be interviewing Anna LeBaron, who has an amazing story of how to launch a book. And I don't want to give her story away, but she is the guru on this. And so that's an extra special interview that you're going to want to listen to.
And finally, you're going to have access to all of this training material perpetually into the future. And the Facebook group will continue to exist. So no one new will be added to this group. This is going to be the 2018 Launch Your Book Blueprint Facebook group. The only way into the group is with the course, and you're going to have a cohort of students that you're going to learn from and hopefully help each other promote each other's books. So maybe you can join each other's launch teams. We are on a team of fellow authors who are all pulling in the same direction. A 3-strand cord is not easily broken, and having people who are going through the process with you is unbelievably helpful. And I will say, in October, I am launching a baby, or rather my wife is launching a baby, and she is a part of a Facebook group of other women who are also due in October. And just having a group of other women who are going through the same process at the same time, like, oh my goodness, I'm having this change with my body. So like we just hit week 30 and a lot of the women are starting to have morning sickness again, which we had no idea is a thing. And so when my wife is having morning sickness, she's like, oh, this is normal. It's a thing for it to come back in the 3rd trimester. Nobody told us when we signed up for having the baby, but it's all right. But
when you signed up for having the baby.
Right, but the fact that she's with other people going through this difficult process is really helpful. And you may be like, oh, how dare you compare giving birth to a baby and launching a book? But I don't know, Mary, you've done both. Are they kind of the same? You're birthing a book into the world.
It's true. And transition and all the fun things and pushing. It's great. So easy.
I went to a birthing class last night with my wife that was put on by the hospital. And I learned more things about things I never thought I was going to learn anyway. So think of this course as like the birthing class for launching your book. And we really do want to see you succeed, and we want to see you thrive. And we want you to be with a group of other people who are wanting the same thing for you. So we really do hope that you check it out. We'll have links in the show notes. It does close at the end of August 2018. And we really do hope this is helpful for you.
This has been the Novel Marketing Podcast with James L. Rupert, Thomas Umstad Jr., and the amazing Mary DeMuth, giving you novel ideas on how to promote yourself and your writing offline, online, and everywhere in between. Thank you so much for listening.